Hey everybody, Austin here again with another Let's Play video. Today it's going to be Viewpoint 2064 for the Nintendo 64. This is a game that was supposed to come out in the late 1990s but was unfortunately cancelled. Thankfully, it was actually mostly complete, and what we have here is a working prototype of the game that was released to the internet just recently. If you have a Nintendo 64 flash cart, you can load it up onto that and you can play it on real hardware as we're doing right now. My system's also Ultra HDMI modded, so it should be a nice crisp image for you guys watching, unlike some of my older Nintendo 64 videos. And yeah, this is actually a pretty cool game. It was one that I really wanted to play back in the day, but unfortunately, again, it got canceled. And you know, this is a follow-up to the Neo Geo Viewpoint, which came out in 1992, and that's actually one of my favorite shoot-'em-ups on the Neo Geo. It's an isometric shooter, which also got some ports to systems like the Sega Genesis and Mega Drive, as well as the PlayStation and FM Towns computer platforms and whatnot. And this is actually a direct follow-up to that, which is kind of interesting. This is still, in a way, a traditional shoot-'em-up, just taking place at a, you know, more of a third-person, behind-the-back, camera angle. And you're still limited to, you know, just moving forward and backwards and left and right. You cannot fly up and down like in Star Fox. But kind of like Star Fox or Panzer Dragoon, you can actually lock onto enemies with a reticle. And I'll explain that as we get into the game here. And it's actually a really fun game, you know. It's not 100% finished, so you can't, you know, play through every single level straight through like I think was originally intended, and I'll talk more about that later on. But there are 3 full pathways that you can go through, each with 5 stages, and unique bosses and unique final bosses and unique stages and whatnot. So for all intents and purposes, for the most part, it is actually a fully playable game. Just not with all the, I think, content that was originally intended to be in it. But you can actually go from start to finish and actually beat the game, which is what we're going to do in this playthrough today. So since this this prototype ROM has been released, I've actually beaten the game probably about 4 or 5 times now, and so what we're going to do is actually take the rightmost path, and we're going to just go through that. I'm going to talk about some basic strategies on that path. And if you have a Nintendo 64 flash card, or if you want to try this in emulation, I'm not sure how well it works in software emulation, but if you have a flash card, you want to try it on real hardware, you know, this playthrough right here should give you some good tips and strategies on how to get through it, and then you can experiment with other routes and yourself. Now, I haven't actually tried hard mode yet, but I do want to give that a try sometime. Obviously, you have player lives here. We're just going to do the standard 2 lives. Hopefully, we'll actually go through the game without dying. You do have sound options, and you've got controller, which is at normal or custom. If you select custom, you can actually change the movement from the analog stick, which is default, to the D-pad. I actually recommend the D-pad because then the game will play a little more like a traditional shooter with the traditional shooter accuracy, whereas with the analog stick, you've got analog movement, and so you know, I don't know, traditional shooters with set bullet patterns and things like that, D-pad is kind of the way to go. So we've got the D-pad controls there, and we've got delete data. There really is no data that saves. That's actually one feature I believe that's broken. I don't think my data actually saves. The high score table is also busted, and so yeah, there are some things in this prototype that actually do not work, and there are actually several things later on in the playthrough I'll point out that also do not work, and it's actually kind of funny. So, alright, we're into the game now, and as you can see, I'm just moving left and right, and then up, forwards, and backwards. As you move forwards and backwards, your reticle on the screen will move upwards or downwards. And so you just hold down the fire button here to lock on the enemies, very much in, say, Panzer Dragoon on the Sega Saturn or something like that. If you just tap the fire button, you'll shoot out a little laser shot, which starts off as green. It'll actually upgrade to a blue shot next, and then it'll also upgrade to a sort of magenta shot afterwards, which is the most powerful version of it. These little yellow power-ups here, I haven't actually figured out what they do. I think they might not actually work, but you can pick them up. Maybe they give you points or something like that, but I can't tell because I don't have a on-screen display for my score. That's actually one thing I wish they had implemented, was an on-screen display for your points. Now, you do have your lives in the top right-hand portion of the screen. At the bottom of the screen in the bottom right is your option. That actually tells you what option you have. So your options are those little pods on the sides of your ship. This one right here actually shoots these orange projectiles to the left and right. I do like this one quite a bit because it you know, covers more screen space. You can also focus your options by pressing the R trigger, and what's neat about it is that it'll actually absorb projectiles and fill up your energy meter at the bottom of the screen. So now my energy meter is full, and if I press B, I'll unleash a really powerful blast, and it'll use up my entire energy meter to do that. You also have a shield meter, that's your health bar. And once your health bar depletes completely, you lose a life, and then you go back to a checkpoint. Now, the checkpoints aren't the nicest in this game. You know, you do get sent back quite a bit, so ideally you don't want to die. But I think it's appropriate punishment for dying, the poor checkpoints, because you do have a lot of hits that you can take. This isn't like classic Viewpoint on the Neo Geo or PlayStation or whatever, where it's one-hit kills. Although the classic Viewpoint did have a shield that you could pick up, which would absorb a couple of hits, not the amount of hits that are absorbed in this game. So yeah, checkpoints are quite far back, but you do have a lot of health to work with in this game. And although things do get kind of intense later on in the game, things can get quite busy. As you've seen so far, things haven't been that busy, and that's the case for a lot of the game where things aren't that busy, but there are multiple sections where things just get really chaotic. So right here, all I'm doing is moving left and right. Oops, I took a hit. I'm moving left and right to avoid these, I guess, the remnants of buildings. And again, regardless of the viewpoint in this game, you can still only move forward, backwards, left, and right. And you'll notice that, you know, as you get towards the edge of the screen, there are these arrows that tell you you've pretty much hit the edge of the border, and you can't go any further. So for this part right here, I'm just going to shoot these, you know, the grating here, the red grating, the red supports, and we'll probably get some points for that. I have no idea, because again, no score on the heads-up display here, so I have no idea what's happening. But you can destroy these things as long as your shots collide with objects on the screen. That means that the collision detection is active, and you don't want to touch those. You will take damage. There are other parts later on in the game where the collision detection clearly does not work. Your shots go straight through it. And I'm going to actually absorb a projectile right here just to build my energy meter, because I'm going to use that on the boss. And here we go. We got a bunch of enemies, so we're just going to go ahead and lock onto them. These S icons are shield replenishments, so we got two back to back. Shield replenishments actually appear less and less as the game goes on. So this first level, you know, they're pretty nice. You get a lot of shield replenishment, and right before the boss fight too. So we're actually running right into the boss right now. I actually really enjoy the bosses in this game. They aren't usually super complex. They usually have maybe 4 or 5 patterns. But learning the patterns can be tricky because they can be pretty aggressive. And some bosses will also dash towards the front of the screen, which means you have to move to the left or right to avoid them. So for the bosses, what I typically do is I just use my lock-on. And actually I'm going to go ahead and use my blast right there and then just absorb his projectiles to build my energy meter back up. And there we go, my energy meter is filled back up. And the energy blast is actually really powerful. Now I can absorb these shots too. Absorbing shots isn't always the best idea though, because there are some patterns where you might actually absorb some projectiles, but you're going to end up taking hits from others as well. And missiles like these, we just want to dodge to the left or right. Let's go ahead and absorb that and use my blast again. Now, unfortunately, sometimes you notice that your blast doesn't make contact, and it didn't make contact in that instance. And so even though I used it, it did pretty much no damage. We're going to just veer to the left and right for that pattern. And then absorb some more projectiles here. A lot of these bosses can be pretty resilient, and so they actually will take a lot of hits to kill. But some bosses do have quick kill scenarios. And there we go, I just used it again. So that was actually a decent little chunk of damage. Not the greatest damage. But again, you can just use your options to absorb projectiles. Just like so. Now, if you want to take it much more aggressive, you can. You can try to dodge through those bullets. Just like so. There we go, and there we go. I just actually took off about a quarter of his health with that last blast. So it is very powerful. So what we're going to do is actually veer over to the right. Kind of like the Darius series, you have multiple pathways you can take. However, there are only, I think, 3 full paths unlocked in this prototype. Now you can, I believe, warp to every level in the game using the stage select option, which I'll try to show off after we, after we beat the game. But as far as going through the game normally, you can only go through 3 paths. Now there is a story to this game. Apparently, according to what I've read on the internet, your player has lost his memory, and this guy here, I don't remember what he does. I don't know if he's trying to reveal the memories to you or whatnot, but as you go through the game and you complete the game, your character actually unlocks a memory, and that's supposed to save, that's supposed to save, and you're supposed to be able to unlock all of the memories and whatnot, but I don't really worry too much about it. The story's all in Japanese, so I don't really have a great idea of what's going on in the various cutscenes and whatnot. So we're just going to skip through the cutscenes pretty much. So, all right. So these guys right here, again, I can, I like to just absorb their projectiles. It's nice and easy. I like to build up my my energy bar, just in case I need to use my energy blast as a last resort attack. And we can go ahead and destroy these as well, revealing a lot of these yellow pickups. Again, I don't know what they do. I'm going to assume they're just points. When I had first played this game, I thought that they would give me energy back, but they don't. That green pickup I just got actually just upgraded my main shot, so my main shot is now blue, so it's a little more powerful. And regarding my options, there are 3 options in the game. This is the second one. So this is sort of a lightning option. I think it might be the thunder option. It's either thunder or lightning. The red option I think is either fire or inferno or something. I don't know the names exactly. I had read it briefly on one of the postings about this game on the internet. This one right here I think is blizzard. We don't want that because it's actually broken. It actually does not work. It doesn't shoot out any projectiles or anything, so you're actually at a disadvantage for using it in this prototype. I'm gonna go ahead and use our energy blast on that guy. Quick kill on him, so we don't even have to worry about him. And now it's just going to be a lot of downtime. So now you'll notice that we have 2 options in the bottom right-hand portion of the screen. I think what was intended is for you to be able to switch between them on the fly, but that functionality is not here. You cannot do that. So you don't want to just go picking up any power-up in this game because you're going to be stuck with it. I went ahead and picked up this thunder power-up because it is actually pretty useful. The lightning attack or the electric attack actually locks on the enemies and does decent damage. So it's actually a really great alternative to the, I'm gonna guess, the fire-based option that we were using for the first level. Now the other option I was just using might reappear later on in the game, so I might switch back to it if I have the opportunity. But right now this option is perfectly fine and it works out really well. And in a lot of cases, you're going to notice that I'm not going to be locking on to enemies. I'm just going to be shooting normally. And those power-ups that just passed by me, a lot of times you can't actually pick them up. They're just out of your reach, which is really odd. So you can see that the camera angle also moves around quite a bit in this game, which adds it really keeps things fresh. So Viewpoint 2064 is by no means a complex game, but it is actually, I think it's a really fun game. If this had come out back in the day, I would have played it quite a bit. And that you know, it's obviously would not have been a top tier Nintendo 64 game in its current state at least, but there is a lot to the game, a lot of levels, a lot of boss fights, and a lot of fun different camera angle shifts and whatnot. And it is a fun game. I really enjoy it quite a bit. And that's coming from someone that also enjoyed stuff like Star Soldier Vanishing Earth. I would have played this game quite a bit, much like Star Soldier, had it actually come out back in the day. Alright, so this boss has a lot more going on than the first boss. So what I want to do is try to target his turrets on the sides of his wings. And what we need to do is watch these lasers that come out. And just try to dodge his projectiles here. So these lasers right here. You'll see the beams sort of come out, but they won't be formed yet. So you just want to sit between them. And then preferably don't move. So sit between them, don't move, just sit there. The lasers don't actually move. And then continue to go for his turrets. As you destroy his turrets and his wings and whatnot, less lasers come out, and thus it's easier to avoid them. And again, don't move. One thing I should note is that the collision detection in this game is not the best. And so if I had moved even just the slightest inch there, I probably would have registered a hit on those lasers. And I would have taken damage. And I want to take as little damage as I can, just in case I get caught off guard by some of his more aggressive patterns. And not just this boss, but other bosses' more aggressive patterns as well. There are quite a few aggressive patterns in this game. So again, just sit in place. Now, as you probably noticed, if you want to lock on high, you actually have to push your ship towards the front of the screen. And that can be risky, as some boss attacks will, you know, they'll shoot down right at the very front of them. And I can absorb these projectiles as well, which is nice. Good way to build up your energy bar. Oops, I actually hit the laser, so I took some damage there. Now the problem with this last part here is he likes to throw these little, I don't want to call them popcorn enemies because they don't die in one hit like popcorn enemies usually do. But he throws out these other ships and they'll actually slam into you as you're trying to avoid his lasers. And that's a little troublesome. But now we're doing some real damage. As all of his parts have broken off. So we just go ahead and lock on a few times. And there we go, he's dead. So now if I had actually absorbed enough energy to be able to use my energy blast shot, I probably would have done a quick kill on him near the end there. I would have taken off a ton of health because most of his turrets and wings and whatnot have been blown off. But I didn't get just enough energy to be able to use that, so... absorbing projectiles for energy is really good in this game. Definitely recommend doing that if you can. But you want to do it at very specific moments. And also, there are projectiles that can be absorbed, and there are projectiles that cannot be absorbed. And it actually gave me a special bonus there, and I don't know how I got that. I don't know why I got special bonus points. I don't know if it's because I destroyed a bunch of its body parts or whatnot. Let's go ahead and just skip that. Those intermission sequences, they're really not interesting. It's just your ship flying with that eyeball in this void. That's it. Nothing else interesting happens. So, if you guys really want to see those cutscenes, there are some other long plays on the internet already that you can check out that have those cutscenes. So this level is definitely a little more difficult than the previous one. I'm going to try to using my lock-on shots as quickly as possible on everything that appears. You got enemies that appear from the back side of the screen as well, and the sides. That you have to watch out for. Very tricky to deal with. There are some parts in this game where memorization is key because you will have enemies coming from behind or you'll have enemies coming from the side, and not just the side but like the back side lined up directly with you. And these guys like to launch towards the front of the screen just like so it's very easy to take damage here as well. And I just took 2 hits, 3 hits. Absolutely terrible. Even though I knew they were coming and I knew they were going to do that. Let's go ahead and try to absorb these projectiles. So not in very good shape right now in this level. Let's go ahead and use our blast, try to kill some of these guys really quick. Yeah, so we've got less than half of our health bar right now to do the rest of the level. I don't remember if we get shield pickups here, but we will see as we go. Yeah, what's interesting about this guy's shots is that they go right over top of you. I figured that out in my last playthrough because I tried absorbing them, but they just went right over me. So you can actually just sit right in front of them in safety. That's something that probably would have been tweaked, I'm guessing, had this game been fully polished up and released back in the day. Okay, there's a shield pickup right there, which is very nice. And now we've got more of a classic viewpoint angle right here. More of an isometric angle, but it can be a little tricky to deal with. These snail things, they take a lot of hits. And so what I do is I don't even bother locking on. I just pummel them with my regular shots. And, you know, the thing about this game is you don't have to actually kill everything. All you have to do is just, you know, make a path. And so instead of trying to kill all those guys, all I'm doing right now is, you know, just making a path. Just killing one or two, and just, you know, making enough room for me to be able to get through. And you can also see I'm just wiggling my shot back and forth to absorb that projectile, get some of that energy back. But because I don't have a lot of shield, I want to just go ahead and kill everything as quickly as possible, pretty much. I don't want to take any other hits. I mean, I don't think we're going to have problems on the boss fight or anything like that if I go into it with this much health, but I do want to be relatively safe here as well. I'm going to go ahead and just try to kill these guys as fast as possible as well, because I don't want to really deal with them. I don't want to take any hits. And a whole lot of nothing. I have a feeling that had this game been fully finished, that there probably would have been more enemies here. But now we're at the boss. All right, time to go to work. So this guy has an attack initially that lunges towards the front of the screen, and we really want to watch out for that. So we move to the left and right. There it is, right there. So you really got to watch out for that. Otherwise, this boss isn't too bad. Missiles on pretty much any boss can usually be destroyed. I mean, we just want to avoid to the left or right to avoid these lasers. And you really want to look at the shots too, because the shots a lot of times will come down at an angle, and depending on, you know, where that angle is or what the angle is, it might mean that you need to get up close to the boss to avoid it, or you might need to get towards the back of the screen to avoid it. It's like these projectiles, you want to get up close because they're at a higher angle that goes more towards the back end of the screen. Back end being the back side of your ship, or the closest to you, the player. So I believe the next boss on the next level has an attack that, ooh, that was bad. I've never actually had that happen before. That actually cornered me. I couldn't do anything about that, unfortunately. And this is not looking good at all, actually. We're on our last bit of health right here. Which means we might end up dying, but that's okay. We've got 2 lives. There we go. We got these lasers again. Okay, we're good. Alright, there we go. Just playing it really safe here. Alright, more lasers. Alright, this part's a little tricky as well. Oh, we got killed. We actually died, which means we get kicked back to a checkpoint. So now we've just lost like 5 minutes of gameplay. We've got to redo that whole 5 minutes over again. So now, I really shouldn't have died, but the problem is that I lost so much health in the beginning that it made it tough on me. And that was my fault, you know, for taking so many hits towards the beginning. Especially on those guys that like, dive towards the front of the screen. Very disappointing, but, you know, it is what it is, whatever. So, I am still new to this game. I've only been playing this game for a little less than a week now as I'm doing this Let's Play. You know, I have beaten this route about 4 or 5 times now, but, you know, there's still a lot to take in. You know, there's still a lot to take in and memorize. And I play so many games that a lot of times, with new games, it's difficult for a lot of the details to sink in. So it's not like some of these other games I play on my channel where I've been playing them for 20 plus years, or 30 in some cases. So... But on my run earlier today on Twitch, where, you know, I had fired it up just accidentally, actually. I just turned on my N64, hit start, and Viewpoint 2064 lit it up. I was like, alright guys, well I guess I'm playing Viewpoint 2064. And, ended up running through it and getting a 1 life clear on it, basically not dying at all on the playthrough. And actually, I didn't even take that many hits when I had played it earlier. So, but oh well, it is what it is. Go ahead and absorb some of these, and, took a couple of hits, not a big deal. Oops. Just sort of doing some micro dodging where I'm just going tap, 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 tap. So what I could be doing is trying to absorb these projectiles too, but the problem with the projectiles that come down at angles like that, what I find is that a lot of times you'll absorb some of the projectiles, but then you'll actually take hits from some of the other projectiles. Which is why you won't see me absorbing a lot of projectiles that come down at odd angles like that. It's only when projectiles are at an even level with you. See, there we go. I took a hit, I took another hit, I took another hit. I absorbed some, but the amount I absorbed, you know, wasn't worth the damage offset that I took. Just micro dodging. It appears that these lasers go to wherever you are on the screen. And so if you're doing some, you know, light little baby taps to dodge left and right, you'll be able to avoid them while also not getting cornered like I did on my my last attempt on this boss. Don't want to get cornered by the lasers. You never want to get cornered by the lasers. See, just baby taps just like this. There we go. Oops, took a hit. My little taps were a little too baby-like. Go ahead and sit in the middle again. And that was actually really bad. There we go, we got him. Just barely, I almost died again. So in the next couple of bosses, I'm gonna have to take it really safe. I'm trying to, like, show off stuff in this game, and, but in the act of showing things off, I'm actually taking more damage than I should be. Like, I was trying to demonstrate absorbing projectiles and then also getting hit, which did its job, you know, in the demonstration, but I also took lots of extra hits I shouldn't have taken, and that made it so we almost died on that boss again. So another special bonus, the invisible items bonus, there's not really anything to that. I don't think that was actually implemented. I don't know if that means like secret items that you get, or if you pick up maybe those yellow orbs. I have no idea. But the invisible item bonus just doesn't seem to be implemented, so I'm gonna go ahead and just try to kill all these guys as quickly as possible. And these turrets in the background, they shoot out these missiles that can be pretty damaging as well, so I like to get rid of them fast as well. You've got these spiders on this level, and these enemies that drop bombs from the top, they're actually quite tricky to deal with. I've actually lost a lot of health from them in the past. But here's a sort of a slight gimmick or puzzle section. You can actually shoot some of these objects and they'll open up for you. Others will actually close if you shoot them, like these ones right here, so you don't want to actually shoot those. And you want to shoot these, just like so. And don't shoot this one. Shoot this one. And this one I can just dodge normally. So some little fun things in this game. I do like some of the gimmicks that the game throws at you. It's a nice change of pace from the typical shooting. And that was actually a bad idea. Should not have shot that because it actually closed in on me. We want to keep shooting this to open that up. And that's pretty much it. Nice little sort of puzzle shooter section. Those are always fun. And it's actually really cool that they have those, because the original Viewpoint was like that. It had puzzle shooter sections as well, where you'd have to shoot a switch to open up a gate, and then the gate would close quickly afterwards. So you'd have to shoot it, open it, and then rush past it before it closed. So it's nice that they kept some of those classic Viewpoint elements in here. Absorb these projectiles. And try to get rid of these guys as quickly as possible, because they drop these bombs on the playfield that spread out into projectiles, which we can actually absorb. Absorb that, absorb these, and absorb those. 4 energy. Should be close to the boss fight. Oh, that missed? Come on, I hate it when that happens. Yeah, so sometimes your energy blast shot will actually go over enemies and miss completely. Let's see if we can just absorb a bunch of projectiles here. Oh, back to another viewpoint shift. Alright, so lots of falling objects here. So we want to actually watch out for the shadows in the playfield and just dodge the shadows. There are these spiders that appear out of these houses, but they take a lot of hits. It's not really worth going for them unless you're, well, playing for score. But again, the scoring system's kind of busted in this game. The leaderboards don't work, so after you beat the game, I don't even think it's possible to see what your end score was after it was all said and done. There's a shield pickup right there, which is very nice. Didn't actually give me a lot of shield back, actually. It gave me very little, funny enough. Alright, back to normal. And this is our boss fight. So after this boss, we're on the final stage. Again, there are only 5 stages per route that you take, and so the game doesn't really take that long to go through. You know, maybe about 45 minutes. 40? I'd say about 40 minutes to go through. Which is actually, you know, not bad for a single sitting little playthrough. I like games that are about 40 to 50 minutes long. I mean, even 30. As long as the experience is fun and it's engaging, like this game is, then, you know, that's a nice sweet spot for me. You can actually absorb these projectiles. Maybe absorb a couple of those. I'm gonna wait until this guy is nice and flush with me before using my shot. Boom, there we go. So this one right here, you want to actually stay towards the back of the screen and you won't get hit by it. If you go towards the middle or front of the screen, you will get hit. Now he's also got an attack where he comes forward, just like so. So you want to just move out to the left or right hand side of the screen. Then we can absorb these projectiles as well. And then use it. Boom. Look at all that damage we just did. So there are some bosses, I was supposed to move out of the way there, but there are some bosses where it's clear that, you know, the quick kill strategy is probably the intended strategy. He's going to come out from the right hand side, so we can go ahead and just lock onto him like that. And then just shoot. And he's going to come back from the front, I believe. Yeah. Well, technically that was behind, but... we can absorb these. Let's go ahead and just max out our energy for the next level. And he's pretty much dead, so I didn't really care if I took a hit or not. But yeah, the bosses in this game are actually quite fun. I enjoy them quite a bit. I really enjoy games where the bosses have lots of different patterns that you have to memorize and whatnot. And this game definitely delivers on that. It's definitely fun. Another special bonus, 300,000. On a lot of my practice runs, I wasn't getting special bonuses, so I have no idea what I'm doing differently here. And go ahead and skip that. And final stage. Now this level is actually not all that interesting. It's got a couple of cool parts, but it's got a lot of dead space as well, where there's just nothing happening. And the boss itself actually isn't too bad either. Let's go ahead and grab that. Discolored enemies oftentimes have power-ups in them. So there was that one red ship that we killed that actually had a shield pickup. And we're back to our fire shot for our option. I still haven't picked up the blue shot, or the blue option, because it doesn't do anything, and so I really don't want it. It might actually appear later on in this this level, but I'm not going to pick it up if I can avoid it. Alright, watch out for more of these Moto snails from behind. Alright, another shield pickup. Let's go ahead and grab that. Yeah, so I really like the concept of Viewpoint 2064. I like that it's kind of a traditional style shooter where you can only move forward, backwards, left, and right. Oops, gotta watch out for the falling fireballs, by the way. But I really enjoyed this this gameplay format. It's like a traditional shooter, but from a totally different angle, and it just works. It's you know, especially with the lock-on functionality, it's fun. I enjoy waiting for enemies to get lower to the you know on my level, so I can just shoot them. I can just pummel them with lasers like a traditional shooter. It's almost like the inverse of Layer Section, Galactic Attack, Ray Force, Ray Storm, or Ray Crisis, where you actually try to lock onto enemies below you. This is the opposite. It's actually, you know, you're moving around like it's a traditional shooter, but you're locking onto enemies above you, which is very cool. So I enjoy it quite a bit. So this is sort of a mini-boss right here. I'm going to go ahead and use my blast to try to do some good damage to him. This guy's really tricky to deal with and avoid, so you just want to pummel him with shots. Try to avoid his lasers, which come out at odd angles. And I couldn't do anything about that or that. Jeez, man, this game is not playing nice to me right now. This is, has been one of my worst runs, actually, recently. I took another hit. We might end up actually losing another life here. But as long as we don't have to continue, I'm okay with that. A one life clear would have been preferable, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is showing off this really cool game. And again, if anyone's interested in checking this out, I will post an article to, I believe it's Retro RGB, that, you know, that posted about this. That's how I got informed about the prototype being released on the internet. And they have a link to be able to download the ROM on archive.org. So if you guys have a flash card for your Nintendo 64, check it out. Alright, slightly intense section right here as the lead up to the boss. And I don't think I'm going to get any shield replenishments, unfortunately. So I just want to kill these guys as fast as possible. Just a heads up, if you do decide to download the ROM for your flash card, and I don't want that, there is actually something you have to change. Read the Retro RGB forum post. Or not forum post, but the blog post there for the details on how to get that, you know, adjusted. So this is one part right here where there's no collision detection. So, you know, again, if your projectiles go through something, that means that you can go through it as well. So this is one of those things that would have been polished up had the game been released. And it's actually kind of a shame this doesn't work, because it would have been fun trying to navigate through these as the lead up to, you know, the final boss. So, would have been fun trying to avoid those in this perspective. You can still try to avoid them, you know. Sometimes I do that when I play various types of games, especially shoot-em-ups, where there's a lot of downtime. I'll look at the background, and if it's some kind of weird grid, I'll try to, like, you know, weave, you know, in and out through the various borders of the background, as if I'm trying to dodge certain objects in the background. It's just a way for me to keep entertained as I wait for the next moment to happen. All right, so we got these lasers. The guy shoots out to the sides of the screen. It goes out and then back in. And I might actually be able to do this guy without too much trouble with this little bit of health. So you've got these beams of lightning that come down. You just want to dodge to the left and right. Now for this, we want to go all the way to the left, just like so, and then back a little bit, and then just keep shooting. I'm just going to keep shooting. I'm not going to worry about locking on. Alright, now he's going to basically shoot some more lasers in a little bit. Right there. Oh, we're going to... Ooh. So the lasers go wherever the sort of his reticles go on the floor. You have to watch out for them because they have a tendency of going all the way off the screen, and they'll hit you in the process. Fairly tricky little section there. We've actually already done a lot of damage to him, which is nice. So I think we might actually beat him without dying. You see that my option shots are actually doing some really good damage to him. So with this red option, I can actually just sit off to the side and still pummel him with lasers. Or not lasers, but just firepower. Alright, move up and then move back a little bit. Just like so. And that's it. We just beat the game. Quality explosion. No special bonus that time. Total score? Okay, there's our total score. So, 1.3 million. But afterwards, when we check the leaderboards, you're going to notice that there's nothing on the leaderboards. Because it doesn't register. It wasn't something that was fully implemented. So, while you can go through much of the game, you can actually take 3 different routes and actually beat the game and get an ending just like so. There is a lot of stuff that is... you know, has been left out or hasn't been implemented. Again, on the final stage, some of that collision detection wasn't activated, so we couldn't run into those buildings. Also, you know, your high score doesn't work, your high score table doesn't work, things like that. You know, some of your alternate pathways that you're supposed to be able to take, you can't actually take them, so on and so forth. So, and unfortunately, it's also completely in Japanese. The game, I believe at the time in the late 90s, Sammy was looking for a Western publisher for the game. But I don't know if they were actually able to find one. But the game was silently canceled. There wasn't really any fanfare about it back way back when. And thankfully, the prototype, you know, was still retained over the years, and someone was, you know, I think someone actually bought it on eBay even. I think that might have been it. And then after a certain period of time, they leaked it on the internet, which was awesome. So, big shout out to whoever did that. We really appreciate it, because the game is really cool. It's a shame it didn't come out back in the day, but at least we can play it now, which is really great. So, so let's go to score ranking. You'll actually notice that nothing is filled in. So, even though we just beat the game without continuing, there's nothing here. So, yep, absolutely nothing. So I would have been in the number 1 spot, but yeah, it doesn't register. The verse bosses thing, I believe on one of the articles I read, that was meant for debugging purposes. You know, basically, you know, the Q&A testers that were playing the game and testing the game would use that. But yeah, this is the stage select. So what we did is we actually went from 1 to 3 to 6, 10, 15, just like so. And so what you would do is go, I think you would go up and maybe to 13, and then up and maybe to 11. Not 100% sure on that. You can actually see on the internet, there are some, there's more detailed information about this stuff. As far as, you know, the end path that you can end up at. But you can basically, you know, pick whatever stage you want to go to. And I think you can actually access all the stages here. But some of them might crash or something like that. So this is the final stage for another route. And we're not going to really play this. I just wanted to show off that you can actually pick, you know, various different routes and whatnot. Oops, I was trying to absorb those projectiles, not realizing I don't actually have any options right now. There's an option. There we go. So one thing you can do as well is if you hold down L and R and press up, it actually takes you right back to the title screen. So if you're trying to play this game for the first time on your flash cart, make sure you're not doing that. Yeah, so verse boss actually doesn't work, it looks like. So that's actually chopped out. But yeah, so L and R and then up just does a soft reset right back to the title screen, just like so. So I actually did that by accident when I was playing. That's how I found out about that. So, but yeah, that's gonna do it for us, guys. That is Viewpoint 2064. I hope you guys enjoyed this this look at this. I guess you could call it an obscure game because it was never released back in the day. But yeah, again, check the links in the description box below if you want to check out the ROM for yourself and load it up onto a flash card and play it. For everyone else, I hope you enjoyed the look at it. You know, it's yeah, it's a really cool game. I really enjoy it. I'm glad it got released and we got to finally play it, and definitely worth trying out if you've got a flash card. So so yeah, that's gonna do it for me, guys. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to post them down in the comment section below as always. If you're new to my channel, subscribe. I've got a lot of Let's Plays here just like this and plenty more to come. For everyone already subbed, thanks for your usual support, and until the next one, take it easy.